Who is the greatest saint of the Jews? Listen to this impressive story. A very important rabbi has a very peculiar dream, very peculiar. He goes to sleep and dreams that someone asks him, do you want to go to a higher level? That is, do you want to go to the higher worlds? The rabbi in the dream said, yes, very well. They take him up to a higher level, to a higher level. In the dream, he sees wonderful spiritual things, incredible things that cannot be seen in this earthly world. At one point, they approach him in the dream and say, Rabbi, do you want to continue to an even higher place? Yes. In fact, they raised him up. They elevated him to a higher place. And so, level by level, and each time he saw incredible spiritual things in the dream, until at one point they said to him, Rabbi, are you willing to reach the highest level? But look, the highest level is truly the highest level. It's no longer this world, the earthly one, the one where you were sleeping a while ago. Are you willing? The rabbi in the dream said, yes, I am willing. Suddenly, he starts ascending in the dream to an incredible place. And when he reaches the top, suddenly what does he see? Streets, like our world. And in fact, streets of his city. He recognized the place. He said, but where am I? He started walking and realized it was his city. He said, but there's going to be a roundabout here. And in fact, the roundabout was already there. But I'm just a few blocks from my house. He turned and went toward his house. He arrives at his house, the garden, the gate, the door, the mezuzah, the door, which is the scroll that we Jews put on the doorposts. And suddenly he gets closer and hears sounds from his house like what he knows, and he's all like afraid. On one hand, they told him it was the peak, the most spiritual place. But on the other hand, he's at his house. It was a contradiction, a supposed contradiction. He walks up and knocks on the door. Suddenly he expects to see maybe a spiritual magnificent scene with lights coming through the blinds, smoke. Suddenly the woman opens the door and says, I'm so glad you arrived. How are you? Welcome. Look, the gas workers are here. Could you please help me change the baby's diaper? I forgot to mention, the books you ordered are here. And the rabbi? It's okay. And he slowly started to help out at home, just like he always did. Changing the diaper, with the gas, with the books, helping his wife, cooking, washing the dishes, the utensils, assisting kids with homework. And suddenly inside he felt like he was in the clouds. And on the outside, the same old life. What's going on here? What's going on here? And the rabbi says, listen carefully. The rabbi says that he never woke up from this dream. What do you make of it? I'll leave that hanging. It's something very deep. It's a true story the rabbi told in a Torah class. I'd love to know. Tell me in the comments, what do you think? What does it mean that the rabbi never woke up from the dream again and continued living his earthly life? Impressive. Now I want to tell you the answer to the question from the beginning. Who is the greatest saint in Judaism? Listen carefully. And this is obviously very connected. That's why I told you this story. And I would like to know, after thinking about it, what do you think my question about this dream means? How do you connect it until the end of the class? Very good. You have to understand that the word Kedusha in Hebrew, Kedusha means holiness. Kedusha, holiness, is probably the opposite of what most people think of as holiness in their own context. Really, I truly believe that in general, when someone thinks of someone holy or something holy, it implies that it is something totally disconnected from this earthly world. If you think of someone holy or have a different idea, please share it in the comments. But I think that at least many people, if they think of someone holy, they think of an ascetic, someone who basically gives up the material pleasures of this world, everything material. The ideal of that saint is to go to a place far from society, probably on a mountain, eating only the bare minimum needed to survive and meditating for long hours, ideally with no contact with this lowly earthly world. Do you agree with me that surely many people think that way? I imagine they will do that or say yes. Very well. Now I'll tell you that for Judaism, the Torah, at least as I understand and study it, the word Kedusha, holiness, is diametrically opposed to what we said before. Not at all. Not at all. Now we're going to think about it. Now we're going to move on to something impressive. Parashat. The weekly portion, which is called Parashat in Hebrew, Terumah. Parashat Terumah is the weekly portion of the Torah, in which the people of Israel come and give God, obviously, offerings for the construction of the tabernacle in the desert. The Mishkan, yes, Mishkan. The Mishkan, which is the tabernacle, which basically is what later existed in Shiloh, in the holy city of Shiloh, which was the temple, the Mishkan in Shiloh, and later the construction of the first and second temple in Jerusalem, that is the holy temple, the Beit HaMikdash in Hebrew in Jerusalem. Therefore, the first one, which was very shortly after God gave us the Torah to millions of people, where we were all witnesses, thank God, that God revealed himself to the entire people of Israel in an impressive way. We heard, as we mentioned in other videos, we heard and saw the Hebrew letters of the first two commandments, as our sages explain, that our souls would leave our bodies and return, and the angels would wake us up, they would bring us back to life in a certain way. That is to say, it was a magnificent scene on a spiritual level where millions of people heard the voice of God, not just Moses. Moses obviously was after this powerful scene, since we really couldn't bear the dimension and spiritual magnitude of the moment. We asked Moses to be the one to go up Mount Sinai, to actually receive the tablets and receive the Torah, and then to teach us afterwards. But God made sure that every Jewish man and woman from all generations, it's important to emphasize, including converts, were included. In Judaism, according to the law of Moses, Orthodox Jewish law, we were all there, that is, the souls of all the people of Israel from all generations, we were there, not physically obviously, but on the level of souls, yes. 600,000 root souls were there, branched into many bodies, many souls from all generations. Obviously there were millions and millions of people. But on the level of souls, our Jewish sages explain, the Kabbalah, that there are 600,000 root souls, which then, yes, really branch out into many, many people throughout all generations. But all of us were there and we heard the voice of God. At that moment, a unique scene in history which never happened again after that scene. Therefore, God told us the commandments and we listened, we heard the voice of God, we saw the letters in Hebrew, it was impressive. But since that's not our topic, I don't want to go on too much. If you're interested, we have classes on this topic on our channel, on YouTube, Mentores Espirituales TV, but I'll continue with what I was saying. Therefore, holiness, it is written in the Torah in Parashat Terumah, being just a little while after the giving of the Torah on Mount Sinai, that God basically commands the people of Israel to assemble, to build what would be the tabernacle or the portable temple during the 40 years in the desert. And basically, that is, in total, we spent 40 years in the desert, and as we said, after receiving the Torah, God commands us to build the tabernacle. Very well. Now, in the tabernacle or the portable temple, which was assembled and disassembled according to the divine will, that's impressive. By the way, let me share something incredible. You should know how we knew when to continue, that is, to disassemble the temple and keep moving. We had clouds of glory by day and pillars of fire by night. God, in constant dialogue with the people of Israel. When the clouds moved, it was a sign that God was saying, well, it's time to pack up and keep moving toward the land of Israel. Impressive. And we had many stations, many stops during the time in the desert, obviously. We had different encampments in the desert, and the temple, the Mishkan, was in different places, the tabernacle in different places. According to this dialogue with God, you should know that for 40 years we had the same clean clothes, ironed, clouds of glory. Our sages explain, pressed them the way dry cleaning does today. We had clothes that grew with us. Clean, ironed, we ate manna from heaven, the bread from heaven. Amazing, amazing. Our bodies absorbed the manna from heaven. There was no digestion. We didn't go to the bathroom. Incredible. It was something. We lived as if in a microcosm. Incredible, impressive, a constant and continuous embrace from God, a love for God that rocked us. All those years in the desert were like an embrace, a caress from God. 40 years in the desert in a remarkable way. And it has a lot to do with what we're talking about here. And with the land of Israel, which I mentioned a little while ago, that those were 40 years before entering the land of Israel. Therefore, in these years of this God's divine embrace of the people of Israel, there is something incredible. It is written there, God says this. I'll say it in Hebrew. It's a very short verse, and I'll translate it into Spanish. Vasuli migdash v'shachanti betoshem. It says like this. And build for me a mikdash, a temple, and I will dwell in them. And you might ask yourself, but I don't understand. It says, and build for me a temple, and I will dwell in it. Do you agree with me? That sounds more logical. Now you have to know that many times the Torah has these kinds of surprises, always these surprises. Obviously, God puts up something like a brightly lit sign for us, very bright of all colors, and tells us, I'm saying it in my own words, investigate why I said in them and not in it. So the Torah is a sea of wisdom. Obviously, it is God's wisdom that He gives us so we can live a life with the greatest happiness and the greatest blessing in the world. You can do God's will in this world. It's incredible and has a lot to do with what we've been talking about. We were saying that someone holy is actually someone very, very material. I'm giving you a little hint of what we're going to say, but listen until the end because it's impressive. So it says, and build for me a sanctuary and I will dwell in them. It doesn't say I will dwell in it here. Here there's a hint, an incredible teaching from God that goes like this. Obviously, God says, obviously I will dwell in the tabernacle, in the temple. That's obvious. Of course, if you do it as I'm asking, that's very clear. But what does He say? That I will dwell in them means in you. You have to know that each person, every person, and this has to do with holy people. Listen carefully. Maybe you can be a saint according to how Judaism understands it. Listen carefully. It goes like this. If you, I'm saying it in my own words, if you make a temple for me, if you build a temple for me, even on a personal level, you use your eyes, your mouth, your ears, your actions, your hands, your whole being to do my will. And God says to be an excellent person toward others with ethics according to the Torah, I will dwell in you. I'm saying this in my own words. As I understand it, obviously that's understood. This is impressive, therefore. And here there's a hint that the saint is not someone who is distant from society. He accepts without any kind of attachment, ideally, to anything low from this lowly world, totally the opposite. What is the great wisdom and the teaching of the Torah? It's about how we transform this earthly world into heaven on earth. That is, how we bring heaven down to earth. Do you understand? Because someone who is holy, in quotes, and wants to go up to heaven in a certain sense, what does that mean? Basically, it means detaching from this low material world, going to their own place, to a mountain far away, meditating and without any kind of connection. He basically wants to bring the earth to heaven in a certain sense, although he doesn't actually bring the earth because he's not connected to the earth. To others, to do good, to help others, he's on his own journey, as the saying goes. What Jewish wisdom is being taught here? It's how we bring heaven to earth and therefore bring it to this material and earthly world. And the world, and it is in fact the lowest world, it's real, it's lower, we bring it to the highest world and transform it into a world. Very, very holy, very, very holy, very, very holy. Therefore, here I am giving you some hints. Who is a holy person? Who is the holiest person? Since you too might become the holiest person. That is, each one according to their unique quality in life, just like your fingerprint is unique, there has never been a fingerprint like yours. Before you and after you, you are unique in history, as a great sage once said. The day of your birthday is the day that God says and decides that this world cannot exist without you. It's impressive, therefore you are unique. And each one can reach their highest holiness, but obviously remembering that the highest holiness is how I make this world into heaven, how I turn this earthly world into heaven. What does heaven mean? To do God's will. You have to know that God gave the Holy Torah, which is a complete Torah. Obviously, there are impressive mystical things, but there are also many very concrete laws about ethics, about business, like how to pay on time. And for example, I'll give examples. If you have a worker, how to pay him the same day he worked, not to delay his salary. I'm saying, among many things, there's a stone, remove it from the way so no one trips over it. How to speak well. How? How to avoid speaking badly. How to judge others favorably. How to look on others kindly. That is, there are many, many very, very practical laws, like you could say about money, about helping others, about doing tzedakah, social justice, helping, giving loans to someone who is struggling, giving them a loan or a job, helping them move forward, giving good advice. The Torah is full of things. Obviously, the Torah is God's will for this world, and it is given to human beings. And obviously, God, the Almighty Creator, speaks to human beings in their own language. And obviously, God, who creates us at every moment, created us and continues to create us at every moment, knows, of course, better than anyone what our world is, what we need, how we can be happy. The goal? God's great goal is for us to be happy, to have a happiness that we don't even know yet, the kind of happiness that God wants to give us. No, obviously, also materially, that's clear. God wants us to be happy materially, to have a good home. Everything material you can imagine. God wants to bless us with ongoing abundance, but most importantly, He wants to give us spiritual abundance. That our soul is full, that we live a full life, a radiant, full soul that illuminates the whole world, and that's it. Could that be truly holy? You should know there is a very special book, very special. It's called in Hebrew Mesilat Yesharim, or in Spanish it would be The Path of the Just, by Rav Chaim Luzzatto, may his memory be a blessing. Rav Chaim Luzzatto from Italy, Rav Chaim Luzzatto from Italy. Several centuries ago, a great tzaddik, a great righteous man, may his merit protect us. Impressive. In his book, he talks about the difference between someone who is pure, tahor in Hebrew, and someone who is kadosh, someone who is holy. What is the difference? Listen to this. It's impressive. Someone who is tahor is someone who really works on his character and tries, right? For example, eating what you should eat, but not overdoing it. For example, I'm giving the example of food, not overdoing it. This and that. Eat a little, eat well, be strong, be healthy. To work, to serve God with joy and a good heart, to help others with joy, but really well, and that's a very, very high level. So, someone pure, this is an example with food, it's an example in many areas, food is just one example. Now, who is someone holy? It's not someone who says, no, I just eat enough to be strong and healthy, and that's fine. As we said, that's quite elevated. The Kadosh. Is there anyone holy? He says, no, I'm going to give an example. On Shabbat, Saturday, which is a mitzvah, it's a divine precept to eat well, and that means having family dinners, family meals, inviting people, having guests, and a lot of joy and a lot of singing. Obviously, it's amazing to sing songs a cappella. Obviously, we don't listen. Is it forbidden to play the radio or something like that on Shabbat for Jews? I mean, there's a lot of joy and food and delicious food. So, for example, the Kadosh, which says it's a mitzvah, it's a divine commandment. God wants me to eat well, so I'm going to eat well. I'm going to elevate the sparks of holiness that are in the food, that God gives me holiness through the food. He gives me abundance. I'm going to say a prayer before eating and after eating and thank God. And I'm going to elevate that food to the highest level. And that is to say, use this. Food is just an example. You can use any kind of example. That is, use this material world to bring it to the greatest and highest spiritual world. above the angels, and the Kadosh, the holy person, is above the pure Tahor, and Kadosh, the Kadosh, is above. Why? Because he not only uses only what is minimal and necessary in a measured way, of course, in an excellent and correct way, if it is excellent, obviously, while obviously having a life connected with the world, helping others. Of course, as we said before, of course, the Kadosh is above that. And he uses the world, he uses everything around him to serve God, whether it's food, this or that, always with joy and a good heart. That is to say, it's a higher level, therefore, and to sum up, may we merit it. Truly seeing how we connect on a spiritual level, obviously that's clear, but even on a material level, with others. For example, starting with your family, with your closest circle, how do you use everything material to do good for others? Whether it's with your family, at your workplace, at your place of study, wherever you are, in whatever environment you're in, as yourself. You can, through material things, elevate that material to a spiritual level, which is generally done by doing good for others, for your fellow man. And you have to know that God gives, as we said before, God's goal is to give us abundance and joy. But it's up to us to open our hearts, And he bade Hashem, as we said, and build a sanctuary for me, and I will dwell in them. But how is he going to dwell in us? We have to open our hearts by being good, that is, being good to ourselves and therefore to others. Imagine it graphically, metaphorically, just think about it. God made a star called the sun. The sun, as you know it, the sun rises in the morning and lights up the world. Let's think about two neighbors. One neighbor opens the blinds and enjoys the sun, like the sun on a winter day. The sun comes in and warms him, and how nice the sun is. Is he happy? What does the other neighbor do? The sun comes out and he closes the blinds and says, why doesn't the sun come into my house? If you open the blinds, the sun comes in. Do you understand? This is on a metaphorical level. You have to know. Look, the example is that God gives the sun to bring light to all humanity, but you can do this with anything. God constantly gives us abundance and constantly gives us gifts, but do we have to open the blinds like the example we mentioned before? That is, to open our hearts, to be a sanctuary for God, to want good and to do good. For example, in our community, Amada and Israel Haim, my community, what do we do if we want to do good? We think about how to do good. We hold gatherings, we have classes, we have online classes, there are online gatherings, and there are also meetings for soldiers' wives here in Israel, in the land of Israel, all kinds of help for families in the land of Israel. For what purpose? For the abundance of the whole world. We need to know that the good we do in Israel is meant to be a blessing for the entire world. Therefore, we need to understand that we as Jews know this. We have the merit and the responsibility with great humility to be as God says. That we should be a light to the nations, or lagoyim, as it is said in Hebrew, a light to the nations. What does it really mean to do good and to want good for the whole world? And in fact, can you see it on a concrete level? How many NGOs are there in Israel for aid? Obviously in Israel, that's clear, but also helping others, helping in other countries when, God forbid, there are natural disasters. Delegations travel to various countries, even those not very friendly with Israel, and they provide help. Without wanting any kind of reward in return, nothing, just because they have a reason. He has a pure soul that wants to do good, as we said, and being Israel Haim, my beloved community, that's what we want to do, good. In fact, I invite you to be part of my community. There's a WhatsApp number down here if you want to write, or there's also a link where you can also sign up and fill in your information. That is, I invite you with much affection. In Israel Haim, for example, people write to me on WhatsApp, they ask me questions, and I can also answer. There's a connection with me, a connection with the land of Israel, with the people of Israel, as we said, so that it may be a blessing for the whole world. This is relevant for the whole world. Jewish men and women, non-Jews, non-Jewish women. This is relevant for the whole world. What is the common denominator? Wanting to do good and trying to do good. And today we are in defining times. The person who has the merit to choose Israel, not just for my community, is an example, but the one who stands for Israel, supports Israel, and supports the Torah. He is with God, with the people of God. That is the people of Israel. It's something incredible. It's a gift that God gives you. If you stand for Israel, it's a gift that God gives you. Did he open your eyes? Unfortunately, as you know, there are many people who, even though they can see very clear things, things that are obvious, still see them as something negative. People who are against Israel, negative people. There are people who are confused. And I don't want to go to that side. I want to go towards the good, toward what is good, which is to stand with Israel. It's impressive. It's a gift that God gives you. We are in times of very big decisions, and God gives each one of us the book as a gift. Free will, the freedom to choose, and may we have the merit, as the Torah says, Uvacharta Torah. And you will choose life, you will choose life, you will choose life. And now I invite you again to connect with what I taught you. Who is someone who is Kadosh, someone holy, someone who truly lives an earthly life? Material in this earthly world, with his feet firmly on the ground and his heart in the sky, feet on the ground. He helps his neighbor, helps others, his heart connected to God, and that's why he does it too, because he understands that this is what God wants, for us to do good, for us to do good. Feet on the ground, heart in the sky, just like the dream of Yaakov. Yaakov, our patriarch, came. Yaakov, Sulam, it said in Hebrew, Sulam Mutzav Arza. The ladder reached heavenward. When Yaakov dreamed, it's written that it was a prophecy, that there were angels. The earth had its feet on the ground, but its top reached heavenward. The highest part of the ladder reached heaven. May we have the merit to live a life of Kedusha, of holiness, filled with holiness, light, and a desire to do good, to connect with God at every moment, and to ask God for help and guidance. May He help us to fulfill our mission in life with greater strength and excellence, connected to God constantly, with strong character, wanting to do good, doing good with blessings and success,